This time on Classic Motorcycle A to Z, it's the letter M, Part 2. So I'm going to be spending the next couple of months on a major adventure. This doesn't mean we're going to leave you without content though. We're putting together a series of videos which we're calling Classic Motorcycle A to Z. So basically we're going to run through the alphabet and give some history and information about various classic motorcycle companies as we go. In Italy during the Great War, three men, Ravelli, Parodi and Carlo Guzzi, formed a partnership to start their own motorcycle business after the war ended. Simply put, Parodi would provide the money, Ravelli would race the bikes, and Carlo Guzzi would design them. But unfortunately things would take a tragic turn, and Ravelli would be killed in an air accident. As a memorial of Ravelli, all Moto Guzzis from that day onwards bore an eagle on their fuel tanks. The remaining partners would establish a factory in Mandello del Lario on the shores of Lake Como in 1921. Carlo Guzzi's first engine design was a horizontally mounted single-cylinder unit, an engine layout which would dominate Guzzi's thinking for the next 45 years. And the first prototype engine was extremely advanced, featuring overhead cams and unit construction. However, the design would be simplified for production. The unit construction stayed, but the overhead cam was replaced by a more conventional pushrod operated F-head. However, the overhead cam would reappear for competition mounts, and Guzzi's racers would prove competitive both in Italy as well as abroad. And in 1935 Stanley Woods would win the lightweight TT and the senior TT mounted on Moto Guzzis. And while on the main the company stuck to its horizontal single, at least for the road, in racetracks things were rather different, with the 1930s seeing the introduction of a 110-degree V-twin, the Bicylindrica, as well as an across-the-frame triple, where its cylinders mounted near horizontal, which is intended to be fitted with a supercharger. There would also be a road version of this machine, said to be the first production transverse three-cylinder motorcycle. During the war, of course, Moto Guzzi would provide mounts for the Italian military. Post-war, Guzzi would continue to have success in Grand Prix racing, although this was now at World Championship level. And so effective was Guzzi's single that it won the 350 World Championship 5 years in succession, between 1953 and Guzzi's withdrawal from the Grand Prix circus in 1957. And by the time of Guzzi's withdrawal at the end of 57, the team had won 8 Riders' World Championships and 6 Constructors' World Championships, and developed the V8, probably the most exotic Grand Prix bike ever constructed. But with the money-saving Grand Prix racing, the company was able to develop newer models, and there would be new lighter weight singles, and of course the V-twins. Ultimately, the Guzzi V-twin would be available in 2 sizes, the small and large block so called. 20 small blocks would be the latter development, and package their smaller, lighter engine into a smaller and lighter machine. The big blocks, as the name suggests, were bigger, and would first arrive on the market in the form of the V7 in the late 60s. Originally as a 700cc engine, the engine would quickly enlarge to 750 and then 850 for the Eldorado. And while early machines were fitted with a heavy but capable frame, the latter machines would be fitted by an all-new design developed by Lino Tonti. And this development would lead to the first V7 Sport, although the Tonti frame would be applied across the range from the T3 Tourers to the California Cruisers. And let's not forget the Le Mans, of course. The overhead valve big blocks would survive through into the new millennium, fitted to machines such as my own lovely Brevra 1100. Although later emission regulations would kill off the big block engines, simply being untenable to redevelop. And today all the company's overhead valve engines are actually evolutions of the earlier small block engines. Marsai was a British aircraft manufacturer founded in 1908. However, after the Great War, just like their competitors Sopwith, they found themselves in need of diversification if they were going to survive, and so like Sopwith they would venture into the motorcycle industry. And so in 1919 they became a motorcycle manufacturer, and the machines were fitted with a range of engines designed for them by Howard Newman. These would include a 350 single and a 67cc V-twin, the latter being highly unusual with its use of an exhaust over inlet valve arrangement. There would be a new 500 in 1920, which would have a sporting variant the following year. In 22, the V-twin engine was expanded out to 738 cc's and claimed 22 horsepower, giving a top speed approaching 80 miles an hour, courtesy of some new pistons developed by Harry Ricardo. But unfortunately, their main competitors ABC, Marsai would find that producing volume motorcycles was a difficult business to turn a profit at. But it was a factory fire in 1922 which finally killed off the company. MV Augusta Motorcycles was established as an offshoot of the Augusta aircraft business in 1945 by Count Domenico Augusta. The company is of course best known for its highly exotic Grand Prix races of the 50s and 60s, but it all started rather more humbly with a 98cc single-cylinder two-stroke. Although the company soon discovered that the little motor was easily adaptable for racing. And while the company would continue to produce smaller capacity road bikes, a 350 being their largest machine in the range, the company would really concentrate its resources into Grand Prix racing and would go on to win 37 Grand Prix World Championships at various capacities, before finally succumbing to the two-stroke onslaught in the mid-70s. But as Grand Prix success faded, the company finally developed a road-going version of their Grand Prix machines, the 750S, which was tragically a commercial failure. The MZ name first appeared on a motorcycle in 1956, although the company is in fact much older than this. The factory originally having been part of the DKW concern, which had once been the largest manufacturer of motorcycles in the world, and during the 1930s had been famous for its supercharged Grand Prix races. But it was the rather more humble RT125 which would be much more important in the MZ story. And in 1948, with the Japar factory now under the ownership of the Eastern European government, who would form IFA, a communist-controlled umbrella foundation, to run the company. Not surprisingly, their first model was a version of the RT125 two-stroke. But in 1952, the machine was joined by the BK350. This was a flat twin two-stroke with shaft drive, a first in the motorcycle industry. By 1962, the company had developed the RT into the new ES125 and ES150 two-strokes, and these would be replaced by the TS range in 1971, which would last until the early 80s and the arrival of the new ETZ range, which featured auto-lube, 5-speed gearbox and even disc brakes. The original DKW concern had been heavily involved in competition since 1927, and the new firm would carry on in this vein. And the company would soon discover that their two-stroke 250s would soon be effective in the International 6-day trial. And indeed, MZ machines would win the event in 1963, 1964, 1965, 66, 67, 1969 and 1987. On the road they would compete in the 125 and 250 classes, and would pioneer the use of expansion chamber exhausts as developed by their genius designer Walter Carden. However, in 1961 their main rider Ernst Degner would defect to the West and would sell Carden's plans to Suzuki, who would use them to become a major force in Grand Prix road racing. MZ, however, would never have the funds to compete, so would concentrate its efforts on the production of road machines. Hope you enjoyed that video and found it interesting. Look out, there will be more videos in the series coming soon. Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course, thank you very much for watching.